Welcome
Shalom.
to the Surfside Kollel Boker. This morning we are very fortunate. We have with us Rabbi Yossi Bensoussan Shushan. I don't even know.
No one knows.
No one knows. And you know
No
what?
one knows.
I always when I first met the Ben Shushans, I said Shushan because I figured like you guys came from Shushan Abira, like you're some
everyone thinks we're Persian,
Parsi family.
Everyone thinks we're
And then I
Persian.
was very upset when I found out you were Moroccan.
No, I was very happy when I saw one of the matzevot from Morocco, and it said Ben and it said Sasson. I was like, oh, Sasson v'simcha. Okay, that I can get on board with Sasson v'simcha.
And then somehow it became Shushan over the way.
I think someone said my father thought Americans would be able to pronounce it better. I don't know what the
so we really don't know. So really,
someone also said that my grandmother was Ben Shushan and my grandfather was Ben-Sussan. Apparently that
and then it became a family thing. We are Shushan or Susan.
Yeah. I don't know.
Wow.
And I was going by Shushan until I moved to Cleveland, actually. And then there's a very big, very chashuv family over there, Bensoussan, cousins of ours. And so everyone was so used to saying Bensoussan, and we spell it Bensoussan, that I just went with it. So now my kids even say that they're Bensoussan.
Listen, you're part of the moguls of Ohio.
Yeah.
So Baruch Hashem, we're very lucky. You're here in Miami. I think you're in what? In Doral?
I'm in the Doral.
The Trump Doral.
KMR.
Wow, there was
a wonderful program.
Look how you're Zoche.
You know how to tell a good program? You're going to like this. You know how to tell a good program? I realized this time how to tell a good program. The Werner brothers are amazing. They're at, and I know it sounds weird to say, of course they are. No, it's not, of course. The caterer, the guys running the program, everyone, they are at every single tefillah from beginning to end.
Unbelievable.
Davening calmly. So many things I've been through. Like they can't show up to Minyan. They're running here, doing this. These guys, like this is first. This is first.
You know what?
And then everything else will come.
We talk about this all the time. How the Gemara says "Hitkoshishu v'koshu," that the people that are going to go out and inform people to do better, they should be examples. When you tell me things like this, this speaks so much to me. As a kid growing up, when we were younger, almost 40 years old now. It used to be the teachers was do it my way, and then we would say, "Why aren't you doing it?"
Yeah.
And that's a problem. One of the biggest issues I see today with the teens is that those that are in the administration position, whether it's a teacher or a rabbi or Rosh Yeshiva, are carrying around the smartphone and they're telling the teenage boys not to do it. And this has happened quite a few times with some of the kids I've spoken to here in Surfside, where the kids are like, hey, if he's not doing it, why am I doing it? And it's hard because it's a Yetzer Hara, it's a Satan. But in Brooklyn, we're fortunate, very fortunate. We have a lot of rabbis in Brooklyn. They walk with those flip phones. They don't care.
Rabbi Wallerstein was famous for taking out his flip phone.
And you know what? I always...
And he used to say, because only Rabbi Wallerstein can really say, he used to say, he's like, I have a flip phone. Before you start giving me your excuses, I am busier than you. He was right. I'm saying, he's Rabbi Wallerstein. He was the most busy man in any room.
He used to be like in the hanger business or something.
He was plastic bags.
Plastics or something. Plastics of some sort. I remember. And
that's not even what he was busy with. He was running here, saving this girl, doing this. It was amazing.
He was a fantastic role model. I looked up to him not only because he was a businessman, because he took from his time. He had a personal experience, trauma that helped him shape what he wanted to see in Kollel, and he did it.
I love that.
And there's a lot.
But that also speaks to your point of what you're just saying. I just wanted, before I forget, because it's something I have a few, I don't want to say pet peeves, but things that I insist, like if it's my first time in a community somewhere, if it's my friend, I'm going to say the same thing. And a lot of people will be like, oh, we heard that one. And I'm like, I know. It's my first time here. And I need to leave this everywhere I go. I need to leave this bag.
The mark
everywhere I go of certain ideas, because I feel like not enough people are saying those ideas. So I apologize if you heard it before. But so like you said, for them to be role models, I think people make a mistake in thinking that role models are supposed to be perfect, that they don't struggle with things, or that they do everything right. And I think it's both the crowd, let's just call it, in my situation, the crowd's fault, and the role model's fault. Number one, for them presenting. Most of my stories, I'm not a big storyteller of other stories. I don't have a whole different thing on that.
Unless they're personal.
Not only personal stories.
I love those.
Only tell personal stories, or someone who I literally know. And it's my, like, he like, people come over to me and they're like, Yossi, this is yours. Here's a gift from me to you. This is a story that happened to me. Only those types of stories I say. And the reason is because I love my own personal stories, because usually they're about how badly I mess up in some way. I used to write these articles from a shpacha, and people said, why did you stop? So one of the reasons I stopped, I was like, I think people are missing the point. I started getting a lot more phone calls afterwards to help people solve their problems. I'm like, did you not read the article? I messed up. I didn't know what to do. I called the whole thing wrong. The person that was suffering figured out what to do from the banter or bouncing the ideas off of me. But they're the ones who figured out what to do. I love telling people about where I didn't do well and where I did, and making it funny and make fun of myself and be self-deprecating, because I want them to know, don't think that there's this, there are, if you're going to talk about Gedolim, if you're going to talk about, so there are angels and there are, fine. But that's not me. Just because a guy's in front of a camera, just because a guy's, it doesn't mean that he's perfect, doesn't mean there's a, but I think it's their responsibility also to share those struggles. You don't have to overshare, but to share those struggles with people so that everyone understands that being perfect is not only is it not in our purview, it's not supposed to be. What I'm supposed to do is the next right thing.
And Rabbi Mansour said an unbelievable point. He said that out of all the 12 plus 1 Shevatim, we had 13 Shevatim when we're in the Midbar, we could have been called Zvulenis. Why'd we get Yehuda? And Rabbi Mansour said it best. He said, because out of all the tribes, there was Yehuda who if we could even say, did something that was a question, but he was willing, instead of hiding it and putting it under the rug, to get up and said, there was a grave mistake made. Guys, I admitted it. And God said, out of everyone, all the nation will be called after you, Yehuda, Yehudim. And also,
I love that.
That's why,
it's
almost like the name of God was put into Yehuda, Yud-Kei Vav-Kei. And I mean, that was probably from beforehand, from the onset, but almost, but this is the, and we look at.
And also, what was the Avera? Let's no holds bars here. We're sitting here with Jonathan. There's no holds bars. There's no topic off the table. What was the Avera over there? It was an Avera that nowadays the guy would get burnt at the stake for. It's what we shame the deepest and the most in, and it's what we hide the most. And we need to have open, real conversations about these things. Not when everything goes wrong. When even beforehand, so that children understand what it is. Not children, but teenagers understand what it is. The process of it.
And you know what I noticed? I noticed that the more real, the more honest people are in the open discussion, you get an honest reaction. And oftentimes when you hide yourself, the crowd themselves hide. And I remember I'm now here almost 3.5 years in Miami. When we first came here, I started speaking at the Perez Minyan. It's in the village of Bell Harbor. And I asked at the time Mr. Wolf, Hashem Yahayeu Shmereu, he's now the president of the Chabad of the Shul of Bell Harbor, that big building. Yeah. And I told him, I'm like, look, I noticed you guys are praying here, but there's no Divrei Torah. I'm like, can I speak? He said, yes. I said, but I need to inform you before I start that I'm a businessman and I'm going to present it the way it's written here. So I said, I may say things that you guys are not going to be comfortable with. I may come up and say your wives are doing wrong, or there's a halacha here that's going to be change the way you think. And I said, I'm going to also present countering opinions to the Chabad movement. So I'm going to present the Litvish, the Sfaradi way, and the Chabad. And I said, as long as you're okay with it and we can do this, I'm very comfortable. And Baruch Hashem, we have a great relationship with the Perez family today.
I did not think that story was going.
I
thought he was going to be like, no.
I think that one of the things that spoke to them was that there aren't too many people that will. I truly believe there's a lot of Gedolim out there, but sometimes the words have to be minced because of political correctness, because of people, because of money. And unfortunate, this is the reality today. And I think that if we hide this under the rug,
100%.
it's a problem.
But I want to take it even a level deeper. I think if I deeper than you, you're a lot deeper than I. But to say like just a level. We have to realize that this trickles down. All of it trickles down, and it has infected and has become what I'm starting to see in my practice, in working with people, as one of the big cancers we have going on in the homes, definitely in our schools, but our schools really, a lot of people aren't going to like this either. Our schools reflect the homes. People will start yelling at a principal for throwing a kid out. I'm not saying he should have thrown the kid out, shouldn't have thrown the kid out. It's not my point is that for every parent that's calling saying you shouldn't have thrown the kid out and you're a rotzeach for throwing the kid out, and he's in a shaman, he has another 10 parents calling him saying, how do you have this kid in your school? He's a rotzeach. He's ruining every kid in the class. He's in an impossible situation. It's impossible.
It's very hard for them.
And by the way, for his $50,000 a year, he's sitting there getting yelled at for his that he has to run out now and have another 2 jobs and all that. I'm gonna get into the whole, but I'm just saying that it's never that simple. My point is, so the schools represent the homes. It's the sensitivities of the homes that make the schools enforce these rules, because they want the homes to see that, our kids look a certain way, so you can send your kids here.
But where does the vision of the yeshiva more than the students?
Exactly.
You know, in Masechet Erubin, Daf Nun Hey, I'm sorry to cut you,
go.
like, you know, Rabbi Pereda, how the Germa tells us, we spoke about this yesterday, how Rabbi Pereda had a student, one that he would have to teach the student 400 times for him to remember any types of his learning.
Right.
And one day, Rabbi Pereda, before he starts, he tells the boy, look, tonight I have an event. We're going to do the 400, but I got to go. After finishing the 400 times, the boy says, I was a little nervous. You're going to walk out any minute. I didn't get it. And the rabbi has a choice. The rabbi's like, look, I'm invited to the wedding. I'm the Misader Kiddushin, or whatever it was. Or I got to stay with this kid and teach him again. And of course, Rabbi Pereda, the Shem Shamayim, tells, all right, I don't know about the event. Now, by the way, not knowing about the event for him, it's not like today, all right, send him a text message, I'm not going to make it, or call him. He's a no-show. Meaning, he's not getting back up, because if he got up to go walk to the place and come back, it's done.
Right.
The story ends. And he stays right where he is. He reviews with the boy, and that night they come to him. I think it's in a dream, and they tell him, you know, we know what effort that took, because we know that there's also going to be an after effect where the next morning I'm sure they're like, hey, Rabbi, why don't you come to the wedding? Or do you know what you did? You know that Kollel was crying, and now he has to deal with the aftermath. And he says, look, I'm teaching Torah. I'm teaching it l'shem shamayim. This boy didn't understand it. I'm not going anywhere till he gets it. And you know what? I hate to say it. We don't have too many of these Rabbi Pereda.
So I'll tell you why we don't have. We could get into that soon, but because if there was a Rabbi Pereda today that was doing that for a Talmud, he would get a pat on the back, and then he'd go home, and his kids would want to know where he was. His wife would want to know where he was, and he's gonna have to say, "I was learning with the kid extra time," and his wife would say, "Oh, great, because we have this bill that's about 4 months overdue. So that boy's father, I'm sure, will take care of it." And he's gonna say, "No, he's not. But he told me thank you." And so that Rebbe prayed now with that type of intensity, that type of what he calls going to take care of his family. But I hear it, and I agree with it. It's just it's so big. It's so, you know, and they. But so I think this cancer I was describing that happens in the homes is this fear. And I think it goes on to what you were saying, that, you know, to come into a shul and say, I'm going to present the Sephardi way, the way to go there. And they're like, oh, no. What's, oh, no. Why? Oh, no. Just tell me why. Oh, no. I'm afraid. I'm afraid that people are going to get upset. I'm afraid that people are going to start doing it a different way. I'm afraid. It's all fear. It's all fear. And parents are running around, blocking their kids' eyes all over the place. Don't look at this. Don't see that. Don't talk to this one. Don't talk to that one. No. You can't sleep at that person's house. You can't. Yeah. Why? It's all fear. Fear of what, though? And this is where I feel the problem is. It's not even just the fear that's the problem. It's the basis of the fear that's the problem. The basis of the fear is if they see something else, of course they're going to go running to that. You know why? Because I'm not giving them the emes. Because I'm not confident in the beauty of what I'm teaching them. Whereas the other way around, if I put all of that, and it becomes anxiety and fear, and this is what parents struggle with so much right now, all this fear and anxiety and not sleeping at night, is my kid's going to see something and go somewhere and do something. Why are you so afraid? You're so afraid because you're not confident in what's going on behind. So if you put all of that, half of that energy into making your home this beautiful, loving, simcha place, making your Shabbat this simcha, beautiful, making Torah for the kid a simcha, beautiful place, he's not going to want it. He's going to see other things. I never, as a kid, a lot of my friends were Mechalei Shabbat. They grew up religious, and then when we were in high school, a lot of them were Mechalei Shabbat. And they would always say to me, they're like, let's go. I'm like, Shabbat, I'm not going to. And I wasn't a tzaddik. In my head, I'm telling you right now, it had nothing to do with being a tzaddik. There was no taiva for me whatsoever in it. The reason was, I used to, in high school, I used to smoke cigarettes, and I used to never had a taiva on Shabbat for it. Why? Because of the Shabbat table I grew up on. I'm looking at them like, what are you running away from here?
I've seen you want to say you want to, we haven't seen you that in a long time.
Yeah, if you want to say you want to cut class, I hear you. Learning's hard for me. I'm dyslexic. I'm wondering, yeah, okay, I hear you. I'm not going to get any somehow over there. But to leave the most simcha that you're never going, and they're not going. They can see everything. And I'm not saying to overexpose them or allow them, unfiltered. I'm just saying there's nothing to be afraid of, because what we're giving them is the emet le'amito. It is the greatest joy ever to live. And if they see you living it as a joy as opposed to as a burden, they're gonna love it. What kid doesn't want to do Purim? And I'm telling you right now, I've never seen a kid. For all the kids I've ever worked with, I've never seen one kid rebel against real Torah. I've never seen it. What I mean by that is they're not rebelling against Shabbat. They're not even really rebelling against kosher. That happens later.
It's usually
the original things is I don't feel comfortable in this white chair. I can't learn all day. It's things that we instituted like 70, 80 years ago. And that's
not even halakha l'maaseh.
That's not halakha l'maaseh at all.
Not at all.
And to make the b'diavad a kid who can't learn, what are you doing to this kid? He can become the greatest of the great. He can become the biggest of the big. Every Tanat and Java. What are you doing? Where did we make all this up from? And it all is based in fear that if he stops learning for a minute, it's all fear-based. And if we switch that and we start putting in that into our shuls, into our community, into our people, this unbelievable simcha. I'm just going to stop with this one. And people get annoyed at this simcha. If you're that guy, if you ever went to a Vatikin Minyan, and there's that one guy who shows up like early to the Vatikin Minyan, he comes, he's like, ay. It was like, shush, what are you doing? What are you so happy about? It's 5 a.m. Be quiet. Like what?
I know exactly. I know the guy.
We get so annoyed at that. Why? Because we're so not used to this high, this. But we have to in every small way. So choose. There's something called, Zohar brings down Shorosh HaNeshama, mitzvot that you will connect to more than others. It's okay. Choose that mitzvah that you connect to more than other and do it b'simcha. Do it b'simcha in front of your kids, and you will have nothing to worry about anyone else giving them anything, because nothing is sweeter. There's nothing better.
And you know what? I think most of the teens and the younger boys and girls, they really just want to see the time with their parents showing them that real connection.
Without question.
And more so than not, I tell this, I even do this with my kids. I tell them all the time, like, I'm there, I'll be there for you. I can take you guys out. I want to talk to you. And that's what they want. And that's what I wanted as a kid. I just wanted to spend time with dad. By the way, and when I spent time with my dad, it was going to work. It was doing things that were seemingly
zero question. I tell parents all the time when they're, they'll call me and they'll be like, he's doing this, and I'm like, scratch all that. You're not up to that. We're not holding there yet. We're going to start in the beginning. You need to have, I'll give you an example. Right? This is how people feel that their children should be open with them, should be telling them stuff, should be what they call it. Not every, but so many messages that we've given to our children over the years was, don't tell me anything. I'm the worst person to talk to. I'm going to lose it. I'm going to cry. I'm going to have anxiety. I might yell at you. I might hit you. I'm going to overreact. I'm not going to understand the thing you're saying. That's the message.
And I'm not going to believe you.
Yeah.
When you tell me the thing that hurts you the most, I'm going to tell you it's okay. Don't worry about it. And I know.
Are you sure that happened? You sure that's how it happened?
I don't think he meant that.
Are you sure? Right. Yeah. It's not. They're never. So I say to them all the time, I'm like, I want to give you an example. Because I was like, you got to start dating your kids. You have to take them out. And they're like, we tried that. We took him literally yesterday. I'm on the phone with a father. I tried it. Like everything before I even said anything. He was like, I tried it. I'm like, what did you do? He's like, we went out to eat Chinese. Sit down to eat Chinese together. And I was saying to him, how's yeshiva going? How's the Rebbe? I was asking him, like very, nice questions. Right now, I'm like, no, you went, no. He's like, all right, so go ahead, tell me.
Yeah, Rabbi. Come on, Rabbi. You tell me, Rabbi. You know so much.
I was like, first I want to tell you what you did.
Yeah.
Not to put it in your face, not to prove you're wrong, not to worry, because you need to understand what the problem is, and then we could work on the solution. What you did was this. Let's say you're a shadchan. You set up a boy and a girl. They go out on a date. They go out on this date. Girl calls you up after the date and says, Jonathan, I never want to hear from you again. If you ever call me again, I'm going to call the police. Don't ever talk to me again. And most definitely, do not ever read me a shidduch again. And you're like, the world happened. First of all, you're my younger sister. I'm going to see my family. But what are you talking about? What happened? And she's like, not only that, I'm not done. Call that psychopath that you read me to and tell him if I ever see him again, I'm starting to carry pepper spray and I'm gonna pepper spray the guy if I see him. Like, what in the world? What happened? You're like, you want to know? I'll tell you what happened. I'll tell you what that crazy guy did. We went on a date. First date. We're 5 minutes, 10 minutes into the date. We sit down in a restaurant. I order a Diet Coke. He orders a Sprite. I turn around for a second. I heard a commotion. I turn around for a second. I turn back around. The guy's on one knee with a ring. He's proposing. Hasn't said full words to me. The whole restaurant stands up and starts clapping, waiting for me to say yes. I don't know this guy. I'm so embarrassed. I have friends sitting in this restaurant. They're like, oh, yay, Mazel Tov, Malki. Like everyone's like, and she's sitting there. She's like, I've never been so embarrassed in my life. If you ever call me or speak to me, you're like, okay, that's really weird. That's really awkward and bad. Call up the guy. You're like, what happened? This guy, he's like a real, tone, real. He calls up. He's like, Sting, what's the problem? What's the problem? I'm going to sit there just dating for no reason. We're dating for marriage. Yeah? Yeah. That's why we're dating. We went out. I saw her. She looked fine. She ordered a Diet Coke. I like Diet Coke. What else did I need to know? I proposed. You're like, where did you even get the ring from? What are you? You don't know. Yeah, you don't know. You don't know it. And it's not even your circles that do that. It's not even like a normal. What are you doing? What would you say to him? You'd be like, it's so inappropriate what you did. So he goes, okay. So tell me, what am I supposed to do on a first date? Everyone's going to tell him the same thing. Every dating coach.
Ask for her name.
Every dating coach, No, that was his time. His time is that we did all this research beforehand. I knew so much.
I already checked her out.
Yeah. Every dating coach, they'll tell you the same thing. You know what you do on the first date? You do nothing. You do absolutely nothing. You talk about the dumbest things in the world.
And you listen.
And you don't ask any real, I'm dating for marriage and we have to get deep. I got to know her. But you have to do it appropriately. You can't start saying to her, so, you plan on getting fat later? Like you can't start, does your family have any problems with childbearing? Like, you can't start asking questions like that. How many years do you want to wait before we have children? You can't start with questions like that. The first question is, so, I don't know, what's your name would be great. How was your day? Diet Coke, what do you call it? Coke has aspartame. And it's the dumbest conversation ever. And the way, specifically, when the girl comes back, I don't know that much about dating, but from what I understand, when the girl comes back, she'll definitely say this, but the guy is that he's a good listener. We have pleasant conversation. We enjoy each other's company. I can do a second date. What does that mean? I can do a second date. I can do a second date means I want to know this person more, right? But what did we do on the first date? We established I am a respectful, listening, understanding person who wants to get to know you. You're going out with your kid and you're starting to ask him about the most intimate parts of his day. How bad did you do in share? Because that's the real question there. If this kid's struggling, he's not doing well in share. How are you doing in share? What does the Rebbe say? What is it? You're bringing up every anxious part of this kid's day. So he said, so what should I do? I said, and we went through a bunch of different things. I said, give me anything that happened to you today. Just tell me something that happened to you today. So he said, I was like, in your personal life. He said, my brother called me and he's thinking about going to what he called for Sukkot. He's going to Eretz Yisrael for Sukkot. And I don't know, because one of my kids might be too young for a flight. I said, Dad, say to him, do you think a 4-year-old Nechama is old enough to come to Israel? Because we're thinking about maybe Israel. I don't know. It's been on my head all day. You know what that kid feels like right now? Did you just ask me for my opinion on something? Are you interested?
You give him value
in something I have to say? That kid walks out of there.
That's the key.
Like $1 million. I had a father one time. I forced the guy, but he was crying afterwards. He picks up his son from yeshiva in the middle of the day. Goes, picks the kid up from yeshiva. The kid was dorming, but it was close to the house, but he was dorming there. Picks the kid up from yeshiva in the middle of the day, takes him out of yeshiva. And his father's a Talmud Chacham, and he values learning. Picks up the kid from yeshiva, and they go out to eat. They spend about an hour eating pizza, whatever it is, and then turns around and starts bringing him back. And the kid's like, is everything okay? Like, are you dying? Like, what's going on? And why? And he said to the kid, he was like, I told him the exact line to use. And I don't like doing that. I like people being natural, but certain personalities need it. Told him the exact line to use. He said, I was working and I was driving by the area, and I had him wait so that it's all true. He happened to have a client in the area. The client had no idea why he showed up. He had a client in the area. He made an excuse to be there. He goes, I was working, I was in the air, I was driving by the yeshiva, and I was like, I haven't seen you in forever. And I know we were together Shabbat, but it was all back and forth. Shabbat, everyone was around. I haven't seen you in forever. I just wanted to hang out for a little bit. He drops him off at the yeshiva. And the kid goes inside. He said, Rabbi, The next day, literally the next day, I get a phone call. I see it's his Rebbe's number. I'm like, oh no, his Rebbe's it's a good yeshiva. His Rebbe's gonna kill me for taking. What are you doing? Taking him out for pizza? Taking him. Rebbe calls him and he goes, "Where was he yesterday?" It's like, I think something's going on. Where was he yesterday? He's like, okay, I'm gonna tell you, but you gotta understand, it's all Bensoussan's fault. This guy, he's crazy. I knew he was crazy. He goes, he told me I should take him out. He said, oh, Baruch Hashem. He said, you don't know how scared you had me. He said, why? He's like, I've been working with boys. I've been a Rebbe in yeshiva for 20, 30 years. He goes, I know when a kid is going to drugs. I know when a kid is on his way to doing drugs. I know. He's like, the way your son came back to Seder yesterday, after he left, you disappeared for an hour, and he came back. The way he came back, I was certain he started using. I was certain he was happy. He was there. He was present and share. He was asking questions. He was on fire. He's like, and I was certain this kid not only is using drugs, he's using something very hard. He's like, you sure he didn't take anything? He's like, no, I dropped him front door to front door. He was like, he's like, so he is. He's taking drugs. You're the drug. You're the drug. We are that for if we're able to give in that way, that's simcha, that would go, that we want to be around them.
They want to be important. Validation, especially with kids today.
Sorry, I know I ripped us off topic here.
No,
like crazy, but
by the way, we didn't, because I told you before we went on the mic. I told you we're going off the record. It's unfiltered.
I know. But like I told you yesterday, I was like, Jonathan, if you and I are getting on the mic together, I mean, neither of us have that time over Halloween to be able to sit for 4 hours.
I know. We would continue, but let's tie back into leadership, role models, not being perfect, and also advertising that we're not perfect. That there is going to be times where we're going to have to make teshuvah and improve. And I think this is ikad, because Harambam tells us in the 13 ikadim that there will be no one like Moshe Rabbeinu ever again. He's the biggest prophet, will never be again. And obviously there's a good basis for this.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously we need that, because then another religion can come along and say, I was a better prophet or whatever. Right. So, but what I found interesting is if you look throughout the Torah, there's quite a few instances where Moshe gave a law and people from the crowd, from Bnei Israel, came and corrected it and said, listen, I think that we should have an opportunity. And I think one of the more important ones that always spoke to me were the 5 daughters of Bnot Tzlofchad. Tzlofchad dies in Mikoshesh Eshim, whatever he did wrong, and Moshe Rabbeinu gets up. He says, everybody's going to get a piece of land. The women and ladies cannot. And here come these ladies. And by the way, an interesting point, the 20 to 60 males all die in the desert. All the women that left Mitzrayim supposedly went into the land, which means they were b'tzchut nashim satkaniot negalu avotenu. And here they're coming along and saying, hold on a minute. You mean to tell me that we're not getting a piece? And now what was interesting, if you look at the Mefarshim, they said something unbelievable, that Tzlofchad was the only man out of the 600,000 men who only had daughters.
Right.
The only one.
Right.
And so they even had a bigger claim.
Right.
But you know what? They come together and to go and tell Moshe, hey, listen, I think that, but this also showed the love of the land of Israel. It showed that this was the problem that we initially created. And by the way, this problem exists till today. That when it came to the Torah, we said, Na'aseh v'nishma, give it to me good. Right. When it came to the land, can we go check it out? Right. Can we see it? And then when we went to go see it, we had more complaints. I don't know.
And the Pirush over there that says that what did Moshe Rabbeinu see in the argument of Bnot Tzlofchad? Because there was what to say back. He saw the L'Shem Shamayim.
The heart.
They weren't trying to have something of their own or to have a way to go against it. There was a love for Eretz Yisrael. There was a love for what it was, a love for what they fought for, and they were saying this is an injustice in Torah, not stam in my belief from it, in what we.
And interestingly enough, the Midrash is filled with stories of Moshe. That when he left Egypt, he went to become a king, and he was a king. And he did this, and now, by the way, the Torah doesn't say any of this. It's all the Midrashim and all the Gemariot and everything, and that's great.
It's a wild story.
But what I found interesting is that the story of Tzlofchad, of his daughters, got into the Torah and have a big noon, mishpatan, batikravna, mishpatan, and all that. Now, and you say to yourself,
into the Torah, into the Gemara, into Allah.
Why? Because I think the Torah is trying to tell us is that from your biggest leader, whether you're going to say it's Moshe Rabbeinu, prior to that, Yehuda, Yehudim, is that the real leader is going to be able to teach something and then say, guys, I might have improvement to make. I might have to go back. I might have to make oseh shalom on certain things, or like I did it this way, it might be different. And you know what? From the teachers that I had that were that way, I stuck with them for years because I showed they were normal. That meant I'm going to be normal. And then also, if something goes wrong, it's not a catastrophe. It's not the end of the world. And I tell this to my kid all the time. Things aren't going to be perfect. We pray for perfection, but we already know from history, from the Torah, from the Nevi'im, Ketubim, that things aren't going to be perfect. And I think the more attention we're going to give the boys, the more that we tell them, 100%. You know what? And like you said, going up there and talking about stories, personal ones, of things not being perfect. You know, when I spoke at the Paris Minyan, I gave them a story of when I was single, something personal that happened when I went out with a girl, and one of the boys there was really interested, but he kept on focusing on it, and I couldn't get why was he so interested more than the other 40 people sitting there. And I understood later that he was previously married and he was in the process of trying to get remarried. And I found out a couple of weeks later from his dad, he got engaged. And I hope that story had a good reflection on him. But I think that also that personal part where I told him, look, it wasn't perfect. Things got messed up, but it's okay. It's fine. You pick up, and it says Sheva Yipol Tzaddik V'Tam. And I think that if we carry this message to both adults and then to teens and to the kids and show them, hey, this is part of life.
It's a problem on so many fronts. We're so beyond us to be able to talk about all of them right now. But if you're talking about when I speak to groups of single girls, I always try telling them, this one girl one time said a line, and one of my shiurim I really loved. She goes, the only thing getting married solves is being single. And I was like, it's so true. I'm like, you guys have this they're like, yeah, but then if I'm going through something, I have someone, I'm not alone anymore. I have someone with me. I was like, it's true what you're saying, but have you ever been alone married? Believe me, it's a million times worse than being alone when you're single. It's a lot lonelier because the issue there was that you had this perfection in your mind of what a marriage is, that we're always supportive of each other. Of course, we're going to get into arguments. And of course, we won't agree on everything. You don't understand the depth of what you're talking about, of what not agreeing really, how deep that could go. So that perfection, it ruins so many things. And this is why I try staying away in my own life. I'm not saying people should do or not do, speak to your Rebbe, but in my own life, I try staying away from stories of Gedolim that, I don't go for the ones of them struggling either, but I try staying away from the stories of Gedolim, he finished Shas when he was 10, because then your kid hits 10, he's like, okay, so I'm not going to be L'Chavetz Chaim, okay? Who's next? Who maybe
he knocked off every Gadol on the list.
Every kid's like, Rabbi Akiva, please, Rabbi Akiva.
40.
Yeah, I got till 40, Rabbi Akiva, baby, It's so wild that we do that. But another point on the leadership aspect of it, the reason why it's important to understand that no one's perfect and everyone's growing, and what a leader is sharing is, I forgot the line, I'm going to butcher it, but it's you probably know better than me, such a beautiful line. It was someone said it about a Rebbe that they used to go to, and they said, you want to know the difference between, and you could switch it to be a great leader and not a great leader, but the difference between I think he said a rabbi and a very holy Rebbe. He said the difference is you leave a rabbi or you leave a good big rabbi. He's like, you can leave a big rabbi and you can be like, wow, that person was amazing. It's like when you leave a big Rebbe, you say, wow, I'm amazing. There's a very big difference. And that's a leader. A leader isn't about how perfect he is or how amazing he is or how much he works on it. That's not what a leader is. A leader is someone that can instill in you what it is. So realize the Mishnah says, or Berkowitz said, Shem the Maharal, I never saw inside. I remember him saying along these lines, I'm paraphrasing.
Sorry, Berkowitz from the Jerusalem Kollel?
Yeah. It's like Berkowitz. He said from Shem the Maharal in Perkei Avot, where it says, Havet Hamidim Harbe. He's like, this is supposed to be something for the whole Klal Yisrael. Not everyone's a rabbi. It's saying everyone has to be a rabbi. This is written as in Mishnah. This is written by the Tanaim. Not everyone there was a rabbi. Even a lot of people that are quoted there weren't necessarily had a following.
They were not pontificating.
A lot of them, A lot of them became. She said, "What's tell me them harbe?" Says Maharal says, and again I'm paraphrasing. Maharal says, "Who said you have to be a rabbi to have talmidim? Everyone you come in contact with, you could become their Rebbe, not just by giving them a word of Torah, by giving them a word of inspiration, complimenting them, by saying how amazing something is that they've done, by saying how big something is that they've done, by saying, and again, you could bring it to children very easily. How much do we focus on the shortcomings of our children versus what they do right? And we're so afraid to compliment them too much when they do right. We're like, he's going to get a big head. No one has a big head anymore. I think it was Rabbi Noach Orlowik one time said to me, he said to me, I was meeting with him about the chinuch, about something, and he said to me, he goes, nowadays, when we keep cheshbon hanefesh, used to be cheshbon hanefesh was that you write down everything that you were nirshal or you fell that day, and you say to do better tomorrow. He said, nowadays, cheshbon hanefesh is you write down everything you did well that day, everything you accomplished that day, and you say, tomorrow I'm going to do it even bigger. I'm going to do it. He said, you know why? He said, nobody needs any more help feeling like a nobody.
Especially today.
Especially today. The true essence of the leaders is to realize everyone's a leader. Everyone has a family they're leading. Everyone has siblings. Everyone has people around them. You are a leader already. You're not going to become one. You are a leader because there are people around you. You are a leader. You have access to Talmidim Harmeh. You are a leader. Where are you leading people? Where are you leading them? And when you say, I'm only human. I'm not leading anyone. I'm not. When Adam Rishon was created, the Malachim started singing Shira, the Medrash says, because they thought that he was Elikai Lamata. They thought he was broken. Hashem broke himself up in two somehow.
Wow.
And Rebbe always says, you're only human? They thought you were God. They saw God. And they thought you were so close to the Tzelem Elokim, they thought you were God. You're only human? You're human. That's huge. People need to realize they are leaders, whether they like it or not. Everyone is a leader. Where are you leading the people around you?
That's unbelievable. I want to thank you for coming, Rabbi. I want to thank the Sephardic Center, Rabbi Yair Masvi.
Shul.com.
Shul.com.
A big thank you to Jonathan Dagby, Rabbi Jonathan Dagby.
And Baruch Hashem, my smicha should be done hopefully in 30 days.
You got your smicha.
No, I'm saying like smicha for the test-wise of the Machon to finally finish it.
You have your smicha.
But Rabbi, I want to thank you. This is the second time we've
Some
been
smicha is on paper, other smicha is in sweat, blood, and tears. You got your smicha.
And Baruch Hashem, we hope to bring you down again. I told you, pencil me in every day that you can.
Can't wait.
We'll get you down. Rabbi, thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen. Amen.